It is a common belief that achieving longevity requires the consumption of numerous supplements, the intake of costly foods, or adherence to a rigorous exercise program. The reality is often more straightforward and may even contradict your previous beliefs. As one ages, the focus shifts from accumulation to reduction. Old age resembles a garden that has reached maturity, necessitating the careful pruning and removal of excess elements, whether in the body, lifestyle, or relationships. Have you ever considered whether there are daily habits you engage in that may be inadvertently reducing your lifespan? This video will examine 4 factors that, if avoided or minimized promptly, can enhance physical health, improve mental clarity, and extend lifespan. The final item is particularly noteworthy. Many individuals do not perceive it as a health issue, however. It is a factor that undermines one's well-being internally. Remain until the conclusion, as you will observe that achieving longevity is not difficult if one understands the principles of a light lifestyle. Prior to commencing, if you are dedicated to achieving a healthier and more fulfilling life, please indicate your support by clicking the like button to disseminate this important information. To ensure you do not miss any videos, please subscribe and activate the notification bell. If you find this content engaging, please indicate your presence by commenting 1 below. If not, please provide a rating of 0, and I will strive to enhance the quality of the content further. Let us proceed now. 1. Restrict emotional eating. During inclement weather, one may position themselves by the window, unseal a preferred package of cookies, and consume them gradually. This isn't because I'm hungry, but because one experiences a sense of emptiness internally. This morning, there is a lack of communication, the radio remains silent, prompting a desire to engage in an activity, such as chewing, to create a sense of productivity. If you identify with this image, you may not be solitary in your experience. Emotional eating is a phenomenon commonly encountered, particularly as individuals age, gain increased leisure time, and experience a decline in familiar social connections. Occasionally, individuals consume food not solely to satisfy hunger but to address an internal void. Whether it's a late-night snack in response to sadness, a scoop of ice cream when feeling neglected, or a substantial meal for no particular reason, one may feel uncertain about how to navigate the challenges of the day. These ostensibly benign actions, when performed consistently, may develop into habits that gradually adversely affect one's health. Emotional eating fundamentally differs from eating for nutritional purposes. Emotional influences often lead individuals to select convenient foods that are high in sugar, salt, or fat, as these substances activate the brain's pleasure centers. Subsequent to that moment of comfort, the consequences manifest as an increased body mass, an expanding waist circumference, elevated blood pressure, and a persistent feeling of guilt. Research conducted at Harvard University indicates that individuals who engage in emotional eating exhibit a 30% increased risk of stroke relative to those who practice mindful eating. Replacing conversations, physical affection, or adequate rest with food increases the associated risks to our well-being. An elderly woman resided alone in a small apartment located in the suburbs. In moments of despondency, she would arrange an extensive array of food, not for the purpose of entertaining others but to alleviate the sense of emptiness in the home. After several years, she was diagnosed with diabetes and had to eliminate all her previous dietary preferences. Her greatest distress stemmed not from the necessity to limit her diet but from the realization that loneliness was not a requisite for compensating the void with food. She regretted not calling a friend or taking a walk in the park prior to going to the kitchen. How can we employ strategies to avoid that pitfall? The initial step is not to eliminate snacking or impose a rigid dietary plan on oneself. It involves self-reflection prior to consumption. Inquire softly whether the sensation of hunger is genuine or a response to emotional distress. Upon identifying the emotion, consider reaching out to someone or playing soothing music instead of opting for cookies. Every instance of success, despite the difficulties, is a triumph over one's own limitations. Assistance and reminders are unnecessary. Initiating progress can begin with incremental actions. Rather than placing an entire bag of snacks on the table, provide a warm cup of water. Rather than pursuing dessert post-meal, Consider stepping onto the balcony and inhaling deeply. Seemingly trivial actions can exert substantial influence when performed with mindfulness. Upon cessation of emotion-driven eating, individuals may experience a sense of lightness, enhanced mental clarity, and a shift in the perception of joy, which becomes independent of food sources. When should one commence? You are likely aware of your characteristics. When your hand instinctively reaches for an item, it may not be due to hunger but rather a sense of emptiness. At that moment, one can pause, smile softly, and opt for an alternative that is healthier, gentler, and genuinely nourishing. The forthcoming days will begin to exhibit a distinct quality. You will experience an increased sense of control, no longer governed by your emotions. Meals will become fulfilling as they serve a genuine need rather than merely addressing a void. Living with greater purpose arises not from reduced consumption but from a more profound understanding of what genuinely nourishes one's being. One should demonstrate compassion towards their physical and mental well-being. 2. Limit the excessive use of electronic devices. One may experience afternoons characterized by the act of turning on the television during daylight hours, engaging in smartphone scrolling while awaiting the conclusion of commercials, and subsequently remaining seated for an additional hour to view the next potentially captivating program. Your eyes exhibit signs of fatigue, and your back displays mild stiffness. However, due to the absence of pressing matters, you remain seated. Subsequently, it becomes dark outside without notice. This behavior may appear recognizable, yet it is subtly contributing to a decline in physical vitality and cognitive sharpness. We can compare human bodies to a river. When water ceases to flow, it becomes murky, stagnant, and emits an unpleasant odor. Individuals exhibit similarities. Prolonged periods of inactivity, excessive screen time, minimal social interaction, and a static environment can lead to a gradual decline in physiological and psychological functioning, often without conscious awareness. Consider this: spending 4 to 5 hours daily on screens, including television, phones, and tablets, accumulates to over 1.500 hours in a year, which is equivalent to 62 continuous days without sleep. Engaging in activities such as walking, stretching, preparing tea, or conversing with others, even for a brief period, would have facilitated increased blood circulation to both the body and mind. Research indicates that prolonged sitting while engaging with electronic devices is associated with an elevated risk of heart disease, metabolic disorders, insomnia, and cognitive decline in older adults. The blue light emitted by screens during nighttime inhibits melatonin production, a hormone essential for quality sleep. If you are having trouble falling asleep, waking up fatigued, or experiencing cognitive fog in the morning, you may have the cause right in front of you. I encountered a woman over the age of 70 in San Diego who enjoyed viewing content on YouTube and browsing Facebook. She stated that she watches for enjoyment to alleviate feelings of loneliness. As her viewing increased, her communication with friends diminished, and her outdoor walks became less frequent. Her visual acuity declined, her back pain intensified, and her cognitive recall diminished. It was only after her doctor advised her to monitor her sleep that she recognized her perceived source of joy was, in fact, depleting her energy daily. Is there a viable solution? No external reminders are necessary. One may begin with minor tasks. For instance, position a small clock adjacent to your chair. Establish a soft alarm at 30-minute intervals to prompt standing, wrist stretching, walking within the home, or stepping outside for a deep breath. While viewing television, consider positioning the remote at a greater distance, necessitating standing up to change the channel. It is compact yet highly efficient. Consider reducing the number of programs you view daily and substituting that time with activities you previously enjoyed but may have neglected, such as organizing old photographs, listening to classic music, contacting an old friend, or writing in a journal. It is not necessary to entirely cease usage. Rather, one should assert control rather than allowing the device to dictate engagement indefinitely. Over time, one may observe improvements in sleep quality, a lighter sensation upon waking, reduced shoulder soreness, and diminished eye strain. Prolonged sitting can negatively impact both physical and cognitive health. By incorporating movement, one may experience improved clarity and agility of thought, akin to a state of awakening. Change is not a product of magic, rather. It occurs when one consciously chooses to disengage from the screen and re-engage with real life. Third, release enduring resentment and anger. Certain familiar names or well-known phrases can evoke a visceral emotional response. This is not due to ongoing pain, but rather because it has been internalized for an extended period. The past frustrations, the hurtful words, and the misunderstandings experienced in solitude no longer elicit tears. Yet they continue to evoke a sense of diminishment upon recollection. If you have ever internally retained such feelings, it may be an opportune moment to heed the signals your body is conveying. Over time, it is not the physical signs of aging, such as wrinkles or gray hair, that contribute to a more rapid aging process. Rather, it is the unresolved negative emotions, including anger, resentment, and prolonged disappointment, that we internalize. Research indicates that individuals experiencing chronic anger exhibit elevated cortisol levels. The stress hormone negatively impacts cardiac function, disrupts immune responses, affects sleep quality, and critically impairs memory retention. A study published in the journal Aging and Mental Health indicates that older adults who frequently harbor anger are twice as likely to experience cognitive decline compared to those who are able to release such emotions. A friend of mine, over 70 years old, resides alone following the death of her husband. She once expressed her ongoing anger toward her mother-in-law and her sisters-in-law, who had previously spoken about her in a derogatory manner. Each time she referenced it, her eyes would illuminate with frustration, as though the event had occurred recently. What was notable was her lack of remaining targets for her anger. The individuals were either absent or remote. She was the sole individual left, and the subdued anger trailed her like a shadow with each weary step. She frequently experienced headaches, insomnia, memory issues, and a diminished interest in activities. Her daughter proposed that she document all her grievances, not to share them, but to ease her emotional burden. After several weeks, she made a statement that remains etched in my memory. Upon recording my thoughts, I experienced a slight alleviation of emotional weight, akin to the relief of breathing after an extended period of dreaming. Letting go primarily concerns the individual rather than the act of forgiving others. It pertains to achieving personal liberation. A call is not necessary for reconciliation. There is no necessity to feign a lack of past emotional pain. One must opt for stillness rather than confrontation. One morning, you may sit down to compose a few lines in a journal. Alternatively, it may be a moment in which one gazes at the sky and silently expresses a sense of release. Assistance from others is unnecessary. It is unnecessary for your children or others to comprehend your emotions. It is sufficient to understand that harboring negativity over an extended period does not contribute to personal strength. Harboring negativity over an extended period does not contribute to personal strength. Maintaining peace of mind is essential. Let the passage of time facilitate the healing of all scars. When should one commence? The best time to start is when one revisits a past issue with the same emotional intensity. At that moment, one may see that the wound is still open, but it is possible to be the first to gently touch it. The decision to forgive, primarily for one's own benefit rather than for others, marks the beginning of a lighter existence, improved sleep quality, and a clearer recollection of what is truly significant. This inner peace is far more valuable than any unfulfilled apology. 4. Avoid relationships that are toxic and deplete energy. Some relationships leave individuals feeling more fatigued after each interaction than the exhaustion experienced from shopping in the midday heat. The lack of feeling heard, valued, or authentic, rather than arguments or raised voices, contributes to the sense of disconnection. Some individuals may offer gentle criticism using phrases such as, "I am saying this for your own good," while others may draw comparisons to individuals who are perceived as better, younger, or happier. The presence of old friends, relatives, or even children and grandchildren can occasionally evoke feelings of diminishment, error, or fatigue, leading to a reluctance to engage further in conversation. If this resonates with you, you might be sustaining a detrimental relationship, one that you believe you should tolerate due to its longevity. yet it is progressively depleting your mental energy on a daily basis. It is essential to note this point. Mental health assumes greater significance as individuals age. Research conducted by Stanford University indicates that older adults who maintain positive and healthy relationships tend to live, on average, 7 to 10 years longer than their counterparts engaged in stressful, conflict-ridden relationships. Consider the following scenario. Engaging in conversation often necessitates a performance, characterized by forced smiles and the suppression of genuine emotions to mitigate potential conflict. Performing a task once is acceptable, doing so a second time is also permissible. Repeated occurrences can lead to the formation of a habit, which in turn may result in increased fatigue, social withdrawal, and ultimately a diminished desire to engage with others. An elderly woman named Margaret, over 70 years old, resided in California. She was kind and gentle, yet lived under the subtle control of her eldest daughter. Whenever Margaret engaged in any activity, her daughter would question her choices, asking, "Why are you eating that?" Avoid making excessive phone calls, as they can be financially imprudent. And keep in mind that individuals may be busy during this period. While not overtly harmful, it gradually led Margaret to become reluctant to reach out to others or make independent decisions. It was only after a close friend recommended maintaining a slight distance by reducing communication, focusing on positive interactions, and increasing time spent with that friend, that Margaret recognized her ability to choose a lighter emotional state. It is not necessary to sever relationships or create significant disruptions, rather, it may be sufficient to reduce communication with individuals who are emotionally depleting and increase interaction with those who provide a sense of worth. It is essential to recognize that every individual is entitled to maintain their mental well-being, regardless of whether the source of their distress is a family member. One does not require external approval to pursue tranquility, and this can be achieved independently. One need not rely on others for assistance or seek to resolve misunderstandings. It is advisable to find tranquility during stressful communications and to engage more frequently with individuals who elicit joy. Whether through text messages, brief phone calls, or simple walks, we typically possess a clear understanding of where to begin. However, we often experience hesitation. Your body and mind cannot endure indefinite delays. Should you awaken tomorrow morning with a sense of heaviness in your heart regarding someone, it serves as an indication to refrain from harboring negativity and instead maintain a sense of lightness for your well-being. Your life will undergo a subtle yet significant transformation, characterized by increased warmth. One will experience increased laughter, enhanced enjoyment in eating, and deeper sleep as a result of no longer enduring others. It's not vital to be loved by all, rather, it's vital to learn how to find inner peace. Subsequently, all other connections will either naturally mend or dissipate. A subtle yet significant truth exists. Individuals' daily choices significantly influence the longevity of life, not solely due to medical interventions or genetic factors. Do you consume food out of necessity or as a response to emotional distress? Do you opt to remain seated for extended periods in front of a screen? Or do you prefer to stand and engage in movement around the house for a duration? Should one retain an unresolved issue or document it to attain emotional tranquility? Should one continue to endure a relationship that is depleting? Or is it more prudent to withdraw to maintain personal tranquility? With advancing age, the body requires fewer new inputs, whereas the mind necessitates periodic decluttering. The relinquishment of certain aspects today may contribute to an enhancement of health, wisdom, and well-being in the future. Individuals possess unique insights into their lives, as no one else can fully comprehend their bodily experiences, emotional states, limitations, and aspirations. Embrace a simplified lifestyle by relinquishing burdensome elements, thereby minimizing the potential for regret as time progresses. Leave a comment with the number 1. Hit like, subscribe, and share this video with your loved ones if it speaks to you. Maybe it's the gift of health, awareness, and tranquility that everyone, regardless of age, is looking for. One is entitled to a prolonged and unencumbered existence.